Hi everyone, me again with day 4 of Zapier progress. There's been a lot going on today. First, I'm going to show you a bit of code that I did. Mostly finished up on the type definitions. As far as usability, I think I've covered everything. I might not have covered the whole schema, but everything I'm planning on using, I've made type definitions for. The next thing in terms of code has been adding a search for block details so that we can search by block ID or height. That's the first search available, and I'll talk about that a bit later. Then the next thing I did is add common code, which is basically utility functions and fields that are going to be used all over. So, for example, account ID field is going to be used in lots of different endpoints or functions. So I created a field that can be imported from any other search, trigger, or create action. So just defining it in a common place, as well as some utility functions like validate account ID, which is basically an overload that can take an object containing an account ID or just a string and then validate it to see if the account ID is appropriate. This is just the account ID regular expression from near.org. Then block, for example, that's one of the most common ones as well. Block ID and finality or block finality. So we can change those up. So this is the one where it can have either a block ID or finality, and we're going to group them together because they represent the same identity. And then a helper function to extract that out of the parameters, as well as network, because pretty much every endpoint is going to be able to choose what network to use. So mainnet, testnet, betanet. And then again, some helper function to extract it from either an object or just from a string, basically, which will then provide us with the whole URL, and it will default to testnet. And another thing is, of course, I've added a simple unit test to check if the block function works properly. And also I added a create app utility to create the app component. And that's about it in terms of code. Then the next thing is I've published a private version of the app. So I'll share you a link where you can try and test it out. For now, it's just got one action, but you can test it out. And as you can see, this is what we get for when we choose. So this is what the block ID or finality looks like. And the event is the action is block search. And then after I tested it, you can see it works properly. So we get all the details that we would. And just to show you here's what the action looks like, what the search looks like. And another thing was that I've been in communication with Zapier support to see if we can figure out a way to use access keys to say invoke state change method calls on smart contracts. They think it's not available during their normal authentication flow, but tomorrow we'll talk a bit more about that and figure out if we can somehow incorporate it. If not, then we'll just leave it like Integromat and use all the other ones that don't need signing. All right, thank you again, and see you next time.